friend AI, these kind of personal assistants. It's seems very dystopian. It's preying on people who are probably lonely, just like the movie Her. And I think having this, I don't know why you just wouldn't use your phone.
A lot of the AI integration is easy. It's the process change that's actually the difficult part. So we've obviously, like we always say, there's this AI explosion, and there's just this plethora, or it's kind of like a veritable cornucopia of tools that can be integrated into a company, and it can make a huge difference. Like there are a lot of quick wins that you can leverage AI for.
My kind of feeling on it is you can always bolt on AI onto existing processes and it will work and you might get some quick wins. But long term, you really want to actually be a bit more strategical about it and sort of look at your processes and see, okay, how can we actually make AI the fundamental part of those processes and not just sitting on top of them?
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the User Inexperience. I'm your host, Makoto Kern, and I've got Brynley and Joe here,
Hey.
our AI integration team.
Good to be back.
Yeah, hey.
And today we have some interesting topics to discuss, and I think I'll kick it off already with some of the latest news that has been out there. I think starting off with the Runway text-to-video generator. I've been playing around with that a little bit. It's been interesting. Just recently, they launched the Gen 3 Alpha, actually Gen 3, and then now the Gen 3 Alpha. It's supposed to be actually about 3 to 7 times faster, from my understanding. And I've seen some examples of it. I played around with it a bit. It's definitely, some of the
So no feature film yet,
pros.
Makoto? There's no feature film from you coming out?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Probably some kind of deep fake that will come out because of me being so famous and all. But yeah, I mean, actually, that's an interesting other point that I'll make. But playing around with that video, it's definitely, I think you're getting, 1,000 credits for like 100 seconds of the Gen 3 for it's about $1 a second of video. So it's a little bit expensive, and what I've seen is it's kind of interesting between the two. It's definitely faster, the new alpha version, but you have to do a lot of testing. So that I think this is where it gets kind of expensive. With Midjourney, you could sit there and just plug and play all day until you get the right thing, and they won't charge you extra. But with this, it's definitely more costly.
And what's the processing time like? What are you looking at in terms of requesting something?
So it's like a 10-second video I've seen with Turbo. It's probably about 20 seconds. And for the same video in the normal alpha, or Gen 3 alpha, it's about 1.5 minutes.
And is that low res or is it
no,
high
it's high res.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's going to depend on what you ask it and things like that, which is interesting. But yeah, it's this gets into some of what I saw in the news too, is that I think it was California that they're trying to shut down these sites that show the deep fakes of people, like pornography sites of people in different, compromising videos, but it's not them. So I think that's a good thing that they're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's even been some things going on there with the elections recently, some, deepfakes and fake images being thrown up, and it becomes all political very quickly because people think that they're real. And yeah, there's a whole movement to try and get those banned. But I mean, they're so easy to create and so easy to throw up there and hard to disprove. So yeah, it's kind of like an arms race trying to like figure out what's fake and what's real, which isn't a great thing, when it's something as heated as something like political parties and things like that. And
absolutely,
yeah, we'll see where it goes. I know there's a whole bunch of efforts to try and tag images like that. I mean, technically, Twitter would need to do something around that, where any image that gets uploaded needs to get sort of an AI pass that confirms if it's an AI image or not and tags it as such. But I don't know if he's going to do that, but that's what they should do.
Yeah, I like the fact check. Not to go off too much of a tangent, but I like the fact checking of X as well, at least for the text type of postings. But yeah, the video would be tremendous to help
Yeah.
because people are so gullible.
And Makoto, how did you find when we were looking at Sora? A lot of the initial things that the quality was impressive, but the AI made mistakes with additional fingers and
Yeah.
things, additional legs coming into a walk cycle. Did you find anything like that you were working with? You spotted anything like that, or noticed that with this particular?
No, I didn't see anything. It seemed to render people and that kind of detail pretty well. I know that, and this is probably somewhat old news, is that Sora's video generation was edited by a video and wasn't actually done by the actual AI. So there's been some.
But that was just that was editing, right? I mean, the wasn't the footage created, but they cut it in terms of their raw footage, because you still got to think, like, if this is a raw footage generation tool, or these are tools that do that, that's really what you get out of the camera if you're filming a movie. You're going to film a long cut of something, and it's up to the editor to take that raw footage and cut it. So I don't, if the actual footage was cut, they never said that it was a whole kind of edit suite. But it's amazing to be able to generate that. Something that would have, I mean, I remember the Sora's kind of astronaut with the knitted hat and in the desert, and some amazing footage, and kind of giving it specific like millimeters of the film. That would cost a lot to to actually shoot in real life. So still pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't seen.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I haven't seen too many since then. It's been weird. Like when it first announced, like we saw those initial clips, and they were pretty mind blowing. And I thought they would release more as time goes, so showcasing more and more of it. But they seem to have gone a bit quiet, or maybe I'm just not following the right sort of articles that would show that. But I don't know if you guys have seen much more around Sora and what it's capable of.
I've seen some commercials here in in the States. That is definitely AI generated, where they're showing the AI generated people morphing into other people and things like that, where they're, I forgot which commercial product it was for, but shows how memorable that is. But it definitely, they're going to use that. I'm curious about how that will affect actors, actresses, and things like that. I mean, their job's going to get replaced if that's. I mean, I've seen actually. I think it was Runway 2, where they're showing a human person standing in front, almost like a TED Talk. I don't know if you've seen that. It's kind of been going viral, but it looks. I think I've seen that. It doesn't look like your Mid-Journey type of generation, but it looks real.
Okay.
So.
Because I wonder when it comes to things like this, it demos very well, but when they try and scale it out to that millions of users can actually use it, they kind of realize that the infrastructure probably just isn't there yet, and the processing power that they need, and they kind of gone quiet about it until they can figure out how to release it in a way that allows people to use it. And I guess the one way, which is what you encounter, is just cost. Just put a large cost to it to make it sort of only used by people who really want to use it, not just by everyone. But that's kind of what happened with the voice thing too. When that was announced, OpenAI's sort of that real-time voice interaction that they had, that we discussed in the last podcast, and that was really amazing. But they've gone quiet about it for months, and they keep saying, I keep seeing posts from them saying, we're ready to release it next month. We're going to roll it out to like initial users, and everyone's going to get it soon. And just like, I don't know, a single person has it yet. So maybe those initial users are like 10 users. And again, it just comes down to like the processing power needed for that and the infrastructure. And so, it's always interesting to kind of see when you see these really cool things. Well, that's cool, but I wonder how long it'll take until we can actually use it ourselves. And it's not really sometimes a technical limitation, just infrastructure that sort of limits them around that.
I think also, as each new release is available, it seems like there's probably a smaller and smaller gap, almost like between the iPhone 1 to iPhone 2 versus iPhone 15 to iPhone 16. Maybe there's slight improvements between the versions, and now we're getting already towards not plateauing, but a slower gap of a difference between each release. But who knows? It seems to be that way, maybe.
It'd be interesting to.
So do you have anything to share that you've created yet that you could post up somewhere and let us see?
I was trying to play with I was actually trying to play with our logo and trying to animate our logo. this thing turning into, where is it? Right here. This thing turning into a person and kind of
Oh,
busting
cool.
out. And so, and I was trying to do like a drone flyby into it, just trying to play with that, and wasn't quite what I wanted, but it's interesting to see. But that's where, again, it gets expensive if I start to play with that. I mean, I'll burn through the money really quick with just, I think I did like 4 or 5 iterations.
Okay.
But I've got to play more with the turbo for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool
It'll
though.
be interesting to keep tabs on it.
For sure. I think the only other thing I have for news is the friend AI. This goes along the lines with some of the technology. I think it's the Rabbit as well. Friend AI, these kind of personal assistants where it's seems very dystopian. It's preying on people who are probably lonely, just like the movie Her. And I think having this, I don't know why you just wouldn't use your phone. I mean, when ChatGPT, the new one came out, I was sitting in the car and talking to it for about 20, 30 minutes. And it was actually quite engaging with that. And I would just use my phone because I carry that all the time versus having this pendant that's talking to you, which makes you just feel like like a little bit more weird, this thing glowing and talking while you're out in public.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's going to be super awkward. I mean, how can you go into a shop or something and you're like, oh, sorry, were you talking to me? No, I was talking to my friend. Pinned to my chest here. Okay, no problem. Good luck.
Yeah. I think that Pin AI was another one. It was developed by some ex-Apple people. That one's been getting a lot of hate as well. I think it's having more returns than purchases, and so like it just seems like the UI or the interactions with that thing is still not that great.
Weren't there supposed to be a visual aspect to it, so I could actually see some of the things you were seeing as well and be able to comment on that? That's what I thought the pin was for, but maybe I thought that Rabbit one was, or Rabbit or whatever it was, introducing some sort of visuals, but I could be wrong. It's something else.
I think you're right. I think they tried, but again, it's taking a photo and then just sending it up to an API, which sort of analyzes the photo and gives you responses back. It was never like a fast, real-time kind of thing. Again, nothing your phone can't do just by taking a picture with the app, and just sort of posting it up. It's the same process.
But you can imagine
just a little bit simpler.
If you're looking for sort of a companion, you can imagine the applications there. If you've got that processing speed of take a picture, like someone saying, "Oh, it's such a beautiful day today." Take a picture. It analyzes what's a sunny day. It's not raining. Yes, it is. Look at the sun. Like kind of being able to add that to to a conversation. So it's definitely an application. I think it's probably just everything's at a really early stage. I've no doubt that that's just like we've seen in certain products there are, that we're creating. There are definite benefits of including those visual, that visual data in with what you're working, just for better context for the AI. So definitely see that it'll work, but as you brought up, Joe, it's probably processing time. So kind of kills the conversation when you have to wait a minute for a response.
Yeah, I mean, even unless I'm like in a situation where I can't, use my hands, even I'm like hesitant to use the voice, even with ChatGPT, just because it takes like quite a while to like process. You kind of have to like start up and then wait for it to load, and then you ask your question and you kind of like wait. And it's like sometimes quicker just to quickly type out your question to like wait for the voice. But as you said, it's all like early days. It will improve, and the use cases are there. I think that's the main thing. It's like, is this an actual thing or is it a gimmick? And it's like, well, it's definitely not a gimmick. Being able to talk to your AI and ask questions and sort of get real-time responses is huge. We're just kind of waiting for technology to catch up, but the power of it is still definitely there, and we all want it. We just have to wait for it to get where we all want it to be, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I think I'm actually, since I'm an Android user, I'm not a Apple iPhone user. I'm getting the new Pixel 9, and I'm going to test out the actual AI. I mean, that's where if you have a powerful processing, product like a phone versus this little tiny thing that you're trying to fit all these electronics, it's going to work a little bit more in real time for sure. So I'm curious to see, because I know Google was showing some real-time video interactions with Gemini, and it looks like Gemini has done some really good against the benchmarks against other ones. So I'm going to try to test that out and see what happens. But it's going to be that iPhone Android race.
Yeah,
When
I
iPhone
mean
16 comes out.
yeah, exactly. That's what the 16 is all about, is having those dedicated chips on board to sort of process through all your kind of AI requests and requirements. So it doesn't have to always post up to cloud. So it's like way faster. So that's the direction they're going for now. Yeah, that should be really cool. Interested to see the kind of performance you get for it and the accuracy that you get, because if it's all being done locally on your phone, then they're probably going to have to, basically install all the language models on your phone too, to sort of understand what you're saying. And those are pretty big. And yeah, going to be interesting to see how it works. If sadly everyone's iPhone storage is going to go way down when they get a 16, and previously with the 512 gig, they had loads of space. Now sadly got like 5 gigs free on your brand new phone. It's like, oh, well, all the models took up the rest. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I think, I was going to kind of segue into, I think the topic you want to discuss, Brynley, and I think what's been also a little bit negative in the news is that everywhere you hear is about AI. Everything, everybody's trying to integrate AI. AI is everywhere. Everything from mattresses to whatever has AI in it, or so-called AI, and it seems to be being thrown around a lot. And from our consulting agency, we do a lot of product design and development, and just knowing what your users want versus what you think is a trending feature is always the battlegrounds between feature centric and user centric type of companies. And we know that if you take your resources away from the most important things that your users want and put it towards something that you think they want, this is where a lot of companies get into trouble, because they've now taken a lot, because integrating AI is not cheap, and this is what you guys are going to talk about. And you guys are on the ground floor of knowing how that integration, how hard it is. It's not easy, and companies putting so much time and money into those resources into something that customers may not need or want, or may not need right now because it's not perfect, is something that we're seeing in the market and industries with our clients, where certain ones are keeping track of what their customers' needs are and kind of integrating in a way that is user friendly. Others are just throwing it in there and not really realizing that they're bypassing an important user experience process and just saying we need it because this is a selling point, because that's what they think. So I think this is a good way to segue into what your topic is, Brynley.
Absolutely. And I think I would almost argue, though, that a lot of the AI integration is easy, and it's the process change that's actually the difficult part. So we've obviously, like we always say, there's this AI explosion, and there's just this plethora, or it's kind of like a veritable cornucopia of tools that can be integrated into a company, and it can make a huge difference. Like there are a lot of quick wins that you can leverage AI for, and kind of as we know, all of our clients, in Impact have some sort of software product, and for honest, AI offers amazing opportunities across all areas of an organization. And it's not just necessarily software companies. Like I was just mentioning, they're not always overly complicated or difficult to start taking advantage of. And I think in some cases, whether you like it or not, kind of your software or your client's needs are already changing, even if you're avoiding AI. So it's kind of an important point to look at and go, all right, what do we want to use AI for? And if we're introducing AI, what are the process changes? So I'd pose the question to you guys: what do you feel the biggest benefit of AI is at the moment in integrating AI? If you had to pick one point.
That's a kind of a big question.
It is, but what
area?
what jumps, like for me, what jumps out is efficiency, and what we've seen Joe like working a lot, like the main advantages are based around efficiency. How do you speed up things? How do you help make things easier? So it's sort of so tightly woven into efficiency. So you think, all right, if that's the main point, you're getting efficiency. Well, what is the catch? And I think that the catch is coming back to the point of successful AI integration most often requires process change to succeed. So, the integration can be simple, but the process change is hard. And without, process
Yeah.
change, you may be doing things like inadvertently increasing workloads. You may be detracting from your customer experience. You may be opening yourself up to legal and security issues. And I think we could just go on and on. There's so many, ramifications of implementing without process change. And what I wanted to do is touch on some of the areas in a software company that we need to sort of focus on, where process change is a key factor for success. And I think,
I guess I'll ask a quick question. Sorry to interrupt, but just to sort of throw one in there. Why do we need process change? I'm just sort of playing the other side of this question. But why would we need process change for integrating AI? Is it necessary? Could we just use what we're currently using and just put AI on top of what we're currently doing? There's lots of software out there that can do that.
You could, and
why do we need process change?
I think that's exactly what I wanted to point out here, because I think when we've approached just thinking about solutions initially, you identify those benefits and you say, well, we can put these benefits in place, but I think you have to think about the holistic view and those implications of doing that. So let's take something like development. You may have traditional development methodologies that may no longer work with the technologies you're bringing in. You may need data-centric development methodologies. So there's direct kind of process change that may be needed. So that's something that's easier. That's like, all right, you've identified technology and you adapt your development methodologies to to support that. So that's kind of forced process change. That's like a direct response to integrating AI. But then you've got other things like your coding tools. Well, do you need to evaluate those based on security? Have you got people sending out code to ChatGPT or other third-party services? What are the processes that need to change around standardizing those tools and having ongoing evaluation? So there you've maybe got an indirect process change that's needed. But you can almost look at every aspect of an organization. So if we go to IT, you obviously now got a whole new realm of threats with potentially sensitive corporate data being leaked to models across the internet. So it means your processes have to change in terms of your data governance and your compliance. You then also need to look at your physical monitoring processes that need to be updated to start picking these things up. And then we jump across to something like customer success, where you could say, all right, great, we're going to implement an AI chatbot because it can do so much. But you could end up, if that's not properly implemented with process change, you could end up neglecting that content. So your content could be outdated. You may not be aware of what the communication is going back and forth with the AI. That could lead to damaging the customer experience. So you've got to kind of identify those and go, well, we can implement that, but to do it properly, we need process change. And that means, for customer success, ongoing processes in place for maintenance, monitoring. You've got to detect risk. There's a lot in every single aspect that there's direct and indirect process change.
So to sort of ask a good question then, not really ask, but sort of clarify, any kind of new IT system, any kind of new change that you bring into an organization will always need process change. AI isn't really special in this regard. I mean, pretty much, right? So what we're trying to say here is that AI isn't a magic sort of thing you can just always bolt on. It will be disruptive. It will require process change, and to expect that and to prepare for it. Well, is that what you're saying here?
I think because we've got to look at this as a fundamental shift. Like if we look at developments in mankind, we've got electricity, we've got computers, we've got the internet, and now we've got AI. So this is a major change that's happened. That's not the same as all right, we're using a new ticketing system for customer success, or there's a lot more that I think people need to understand. And this is something that is going to just be growing and becoming, just like we don't notice electricity is around us anymore. We're not going to notice that AI is around, but we need to be aware that it's almost taking something additional on. So for all the efficiencies it can bring, you have to be aware that there still needs to be resources to manage that. And I think that's a fundamental difference between any other technology. It's not such a shift as the introduction of AI, where you actually need to feed it and you need to maintain it, because it's that autonomy that you want, but you want to control the narrative of that, autonomy, especially when it comes to things that are customer facing.
So I've got something. It's basically what you're talking about is it's disruptive, and social media, I would say, was that bigger change where when we started using social media. That has an effect on marketing. It has an effect on kids. It has an effect on adult relationships. These things. It's your process change. Like now, how you raise your kids and how they interact with social media.
It's a great point.
It's a fundamental change in which how we interact with people, what's fake, what's real, what's not. It's changing our mindset on a lot of those things. So I see that with AI technology. And what's interesting is that we do have cybersecurity clients as well. And they're looking into like checking that exact same thing. Like what different technology have been integrated? How do you check to monitor that? It's not easy because there's so many new things coming out, and what's leaving the company, what's not, what IP is getting,
exactly.
Unsecured, what could get stolen, things like that is such an important thing. And it's something that is disruptive that you do have to go in and change, not the way you approach, maybe not the way you detect something that is wrong or how you ingest that input. It's how you use that, analyze that, and then take action on that. That's what's probably fundamentally changing for sure.
I guess the question I would have then though is like, let's say I'm a company and I'm interested in a few AI products, but this sounds a bit scary to me then, right? Because you're kind of saying, well, we want to get some, some AI tooling in here to improve some workflows that we have that we apparently will really help improve the speed of that. But are we going to have to now change our whole sort of structure within our company to support AI? Do we have to, it sounds very disruptive. Is this even a good thing? Do we even want to do this? Is it worth it?
Well,
I'm just sort of playing the viewer's question here.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it needs to be evaluated. If you've got someone that, in your organization that puts their hand up and goes, I know this great AI tool, you've got to look at it in terms of, well, how are you going to maintain that? What are the sort of optics you got through that tool? How can this benefit us long term, and how can we, maintain control long term? And I think there's a lot more that goes along with that decision, opposed to a new feature that you would add to your application, and that's done, and you've checked it off, and no one thinks about it again.
Is it an open loop system versus a closed loop system type of thing?
It could be. I mean, I think it's just more around those additional considerations and efforts to ensure that long term this is successful, and this isn't something that's an initial investment and then you forget about it, and then you wonder 3 years down the line, why are we not doing so well? Why are our customers having a negative opinion of our product? But you haven't been actively managing that.
My kind of feeling on it is you can always bolt on AI onto existing processes and it will work and you might get some quick wins, but long term you really want to actually be a bit more strategical about it and sort of look at your processes and see, okay, how can we actually make AI the fundamental part of those processes and not just sitting on top of them, kind of half, maybe like half working as well as it could if it was actually like a core part of your processes. And I kind of feel that's what we've seen too, that sure you can bolt it on, but you're only going to get so far with it. And if you sort of align a bit more to it, and also just looking forward, right? It's not just about right now, it's like looking what users' expectations are going to be in a few years' time. Everyone's going to be expecting just to talk into their computers and to talk into their phones and get instant sort of AI feedback and instant sort of AI assistance. If you just bolt things on, you're just kind of delaying the point where you're actually really going to need to make it a bit more of a core process to actually get to where you want to be, where everyone else is going. And you can't kind of sit back in it and go, well, let's just see where it all ends up, because you're probably going to be in a situation where you suddenly find yourself, wow, we've kind of been tacking on AI and now AI is kind of bits and pieces on everywhere. It doesn't really work as well as it could. And everyone else is doing it a lot better. And why are we sort of falling behind? And you've invested so much into bolting it on when you should have really potentially gone back in the very beginning and gone, let's just really reimagine how we're actually doing things here. What can we change within our organization, within our sort of workflows and structures that will really take advantage of AI properly, and what AI needs in terms of like data and, as you said, governance and understanding its real, its capabilities, and getting workflows in a way that are easy to integrate into AI. You're not always kind of battling to try and get it in there.
Yeah.
To me, that sort of sounds like, the sort of advice we'd want to give around that.
Exactly. And I think
it's like with any other tool, we have our process where we strategically understand what the business is trying to achieve, what the users are trying to achieve, and the constraints of the development team, and try to prioritize and obviously de-risk anything you're trying to integrate, because it's going to take time and money. So these are things that just with anything else, you should do the upfront work strategy to understand, hey, what should we integrate into our products? And this is just another thing.
Absolutely.
I think that you have to,
and I think it's about
the same,
doing it right the first time. And that's kind of building on what you were saying, Joe, as well, is, you don't want to get to the point where you'd say, well, we just thought it'd be quick initially, and now we realize the opportunity that we've lost by not, changing processes early on, and, figuring out how we can best align with opportunity.
And all the debt you've piled on top over the years by ignoring that. Because always by bolting things in, there's always hacks to get that to work, right? You're always kind of hacking around and making plans and adding in integration layers where there shouldn't need to be, and sort of keeping data in sync when you shouldn't need to have to do that. It all should be central. You're kind of all doing these workarounds to try and get all these systems working together correctly, and you're just embedding yourself in more of a nest of bits and pieces, instead of like a real solid sort of vision of where you can go with it.
And I think,
are you seeing that with the clients that you guys are integrating?
Absolutely.
Tech with? Are you?
I think you definitely see it. And one of the things that I was going to bring up now is just the sort of last section is, your human resources in your organization. Especially with process change, what's the difficult? What's always the difficult part? And it's kind of employee resistance. Like if you've got a process and you feel strongly about it and you've got your existing toolbox, it's difficult to change. Things are working well, but you do need to look at it again holistically and say, where do we want to be, and how do we position for something that, again, is a major sort of developmental milestone in mankind. We're not talking about, well, there's a new social media platform, or it's something that it's a technology that we really need to step back and go, okay, how are we best going to align ourselves with this opportunity? And I think, that's where, like you were talking about, Joe, it's that sort of, reimagining process. That's where you've got to, involve everyone and say, how are we going to look at all the benefits and reimagine this future now with AI and move forward? So, I mean, those things that we mentioned are really just a fraction of the processes that need to change. And I think the stumbling blocks will be how siloed your organization is. Is your culture resistant to change? How effectively do you communicate in the organization? How effectively does process change flow through your organization at the moment? Is it very difficult? Is it too much red tape? Or, do you feel that, that works with your kind of company culture? And to kind of wrap this up, I would think the takeaway is that bringing AI into your organization has far-reaching effects, and you really need something like a central governing body, or set up something like a central governing body, whether it's internal or it's consultants, and just to ensure you've got that ongoing evaluation of this new tech and your internal tool sets, to ensure you're not exposed to risk and you kind of realize those efficiencies that AI can really offer. It's an exciting time, but I think it's an important point to just realize, like, think about process.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, I think that's a good segue to end, and appreciate everybody tuning into the AI podcast today. And again, always reach out if you have any questions or have any new topics you want us to discuss. And Again, thanks for your time, and hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, until next
Take care.
time. See
Thanks.
ya.
See
All
ya.
right, bye everyone.